Did you know that for over 5 centuries, West Africa controlled more than 60% of the world's gold supply and shaped the economies of 3 continents? While history books focus on European exploration and Asian trade routes, they rarely mention that the wealthiest region on Earth during the medieval period wasn't in Europe or the Middle East. It was in West Africa. Gold from African mines didn't just flow through trade routes, it literally backed the currencies of Europe and the Islamic world. So here's the question: how did an entire continent's economic dominance get written out of the story we're told about global history? Between the 8th and 16th centuries, West African empires sat on top of the world's richest gold deposits. The regions of Bambouk, Bure, and Akan produced gold in quantities that no other place on Earth could match. And the rulers of West Africa understood something crucial: control the supply, control the price. The Empire of Ghana, which reached its peak around the 11th century, was the first to master this economic strategy. Ghana didn't just mine gold. It controlled the trade routes, taxed the merchants, and regulated how much gold entered the market. Arab travelers described Ghana's capital as a city of wealth beyond imagination, where even the dogs wore collars of gold and silver. But Ghana was only the beginning. When the Mali Empire rose to power in the 13th century, it expanded control over even larger gold fields. Mali's rulers refined the system Ghana had created. They controlled the mines, they regulated production, they managed distribution through a network of trade routes that stretched across the Sahara Desert to North Africa, and from there to Europe and the Middle East. Think about what this meant. European kingdoms minted their coins using West African gold. Islamic states, from Cairo to Baghdad, depended on it for their monetary systems. International trade operated on a gold standard that originated in West African mines and was controlled by West African kings. The trans-Saharan trade routes became highways of wealth. Caravans with thousands of camels carried gold northward across the desert. They returned with salt, textiles, books, and goods from the Mediterranean world. Cities like Timbuktu, Gao, and Djenné transformed into cosmopolitan centers where merchants from Africa, the Middle East, and beyond conducted business in multiple languages. West African rulers didn't merely sell gold. They controlled information about its source. For centuries, the exact location of the gold mines remained a closely guarded secret. Foreign merchants could buy gold in West African cities, but they could never access the mines themselves. This information control was deliberate economic strategy, and it worked for generations. But if West Africa was this wealthy and this powerful, why does this history feel unfamiliar? The most famous example of West African wealth is Mansa Musa, the Emperor of Mali, who ruled in the early 14th century. In 1324, Mansa Musa embarked on a pilgrimage to Mecca. He traveled with an entourage of 60,000 people. He brought 80 camels, each carrying 300 pounds of gold. Along the way, Mansa Musa distributed gold so generously in cities like Cairo that he crashed the regional economy. The value of gold in Egypt didn't recover for over a decade. One man's generosity destabilized the Mediterranean gold market. That's not just wealth. That's economic power on a scale that reshaped international trade. Contemporary accounts describe Mansa Musa's caravan in awe. Arab historians wrote that they had never seen such displays of wealth. European mapmakers began drawing Africa differently, depicting the Mali emperor on his throne, holding a golden scepter with the caption, "The richest king in the world." And Mansa Musa wasn't an exception. He was part of a centuries-long tradition of West African economic dominance. After Mali, the Songhai Empire expanded even further, controlling trade routes from the Atlantic coast deep into the Sahara. Under rulers like Sunni Ali and Askia Muhammad, Songhai became the largest empire in African history, governing territories larger than Western Europe. Timbuktu, under Songhai rule, wasn't just a trading hub. It became one of the world's great centers of learning. The University of Sankore attracted scholars from across the Islamic world. Hundreds of thousands of manuscripts were written, copied, and preserved. Students studied mathematics, astronomy, medicine, law, and literature. The city's libraries held more books than most European cities at the time. This wasn't a primitive society discovering trade. This was a sophisticated civilization that understood global economics, intellectual production, and strategic resource management centuries before the Atlantic slave trade disrupted everything. West African gold helped finance the European Renaissance. It supported the expansion of Islamic empires. It fueled international trade. So when Portuguese explorers reached the West African coast in the 15th century, they weren't discovering a poor or backward region. They were encountering organized, wealthy, and sophisticated economies. But history shifted. Trade routes changed. Coastal trading posts replaced trans-Saharan networks. And attention moved from gold to a darker, more destructive trade. As that happened, Africa's image was rewritten. The continent that once controlled global wealth was suddenly described as primitive. The empires were erased, the universities forgotten, the economic genius ignored. Yet the truth remains. For over 500 years, West Africa sat at the center of the world's economy. If this story changed how you see Africa or made you proud of what our ancestors achieved, like this video so more people can learn the truth. And subscribe to Did You Know Africa, where we uncover the stories that history tried to bury. Because Africa didn't just participate in global history, Africa helped build it. The real question isn't whether Africa had economic power. The evidence already answers that. The real question is this: why were we never taught that the continent which fed the world's economy for centuries was later described as having no history at all? West Africa's golden age is not a myth, it is a legacy, and reclaiming it is how we reclaim our place in the story of humanity.